And for us, they are number 6. And with the fans, they tied for 6th, which how that many people answered a Google form and somehow you people tied is ridiculous. I even put it through a spreadsheet and did the equals average just to make sure. It's not just me bad at math, it's Google too. Um, this is a team that got rid of their coach in Marcina. The mentality monsters are dead, but a lot of them have kind of stuck around. John, who's here, who's gone?
I mean, yeah, Alan Marcina out, Carlos Lamosa in, Kevon Lambert gone, Carter Manley retired. Lots of kind of those loanies like Hugo Mbonge, Jesus Brigado are gone. Kendall McIntosh and Pablo Cisniega from net out. So lots of changes, especially at the back for San Antonio. But you think about the additions. Alex Cornale coming in, Alexis Wahi in the back line as well. Diego Pacheco was kind of a later addition on the wing, but one I'm excited about. A handful of players who are a little bit of a mystery coming from Lamosa's native Colombia, but I'm thinking Almir Soto at least is the starter at the 6th spot. So an interesting team.
Yeah, Ryan, this is a team that went through a lot of changes and had a lot of issues off the pitch last year. Nothing like really, really bad, but the fans in the front office had like a giant disconnect. And it seems like this season they are already kind of, fixing some wrongs, if you will. What are you kind of expecting from this team in starting off this new era?
Yeah, I mean, this is the San Antonio team that's 3 years removed from winning the league to now missing the playoffs in what was a very competitive playoff race in the Western Conference last year. It really felt like this year is a make or break type of season for the fan base, for the front office, just from being on the same page, and for this team just being a competitive outfit that it felt like the front office was compelled to go out and make a new hire at head coach, to go out and sign these players like you mentioned, Cornale, hey, as well, Soto as well, that it seems like this is a San Antonio team that it's a playoffs or bust mentality for this season. And I think especially important is to start off the year on the right foot. I mean, you're playing Monterey Bay, Pittsburgh, Oakland, Lexington in your first 4 games, that if you lose to Lexington in your first 4 games, I feel like it would be respectable, but it wouldn't do as well to win the fan base back if you have a team that comes up from League One and basically beat you in a match. That from San Antonio's perspective, they really have to make a first impression here, because those are really going to count in winning the fan base back over.
Phil, how do you feel knowing that San Antonio paid $800 million for number 6? Anyway, Juan Soto joke. With this team,
Oh my God. That was a thinker.
yeah, whatever. This is a team that did bring back a lot of pieces that we know, right? I mean, Jorge Hernandez was the best midfielder in the league last year. Conversation there. You have Jake LaCava, who seems to just kind of go around the entire league, but is always just a stud wherever he goes. Mitchell Tainer is a guy who arguably should have won MVP in 2022. You bring back a Juan Agudelo, which we know his pedigree, and that's a lot of sameness. Are those guys going to be able to elevate their game around the guys that they brought in, or are they going to be the remnants of an old era that kind of frankly got old and hurt?
Yeah, it is a little bit strange, especially when you look statistically at the San Antonio's team last season and the fact that like Agudelo is the top scorer, but like their second top scorer is Lucho Solaniak, who is retired, and maybe didn't even get that many significant minutes like towards the end of the season. I think they had like serious dysfunction despite looking individually good, if that makes sense. I think your mention of Jorge Hernandez is spot on in the sense that like extremely talented, and for whatever reason he reminds me of like Bruno Fernandes in this Man United side, where it's like clearly a good player in like a team that just doesn't work for whatever reason. I think San Antonio needed the change in the manager spot to be able to unlock whatever dysfunction was going on like up top. And I think when you look at the pieces, like this has the potential to be a very, very dangerous team. The question is just like how much are they going to hit the ground running and how much time are they going to spend figuring it out? I would say like across the history of the USL Championship, it is a very mixed bag when you like bring in players from abroad. Not to say that they can't succeed, because there have been plenty of players who have had like wonderful careers in USL coming from abroad, and they are a bit of an unknown quantity because the relative comparison of competition is really hard to actually judge, and how they're going to cope with the physicality of the league and the travel and all of these things that make the USL so unique. So I think those are the pitfalls for San Antonio. I think it's impossible to deny that this is a team that they have plenty of talented pieces. And I think like a lot of teams in the West, the question mark is like, is the new manager going to be able to get them together and actually make something of it?
John, when I'm looking at this team right now, I am seeing a guy who used to play for my club, which is Alex Crognale. And I am seeing someone who might be the next best thing to a Mahoney on the other side, Tainer. Are they going to be able to kind of rekindle that defensive stoutness that they had? Obviously, that was a 3-5-man back line. This is like that 4-5-1. But is that defensive solidity in those center backs going to be able to keep them afloat while the attack kind of figures it out?
100%. And I think that it's kind of the unity of the system from front to back. When San Antonio was under Alan Marcina last season and really struggled, there was a real disconnect between we're lumping it long every time, we're never able to establish territory, the defense is constantly under fire. This feels like in Tainer and Crognale, you've got two players who are excellent center backs and can clean up defensively, but both of them are decent in terms of their initiation. Given how San Antonio is going to adapt under Lamosa, they're not going to be as direct a team. It's impossible, frankly, to be as direct as whatever Alan Marcina was trying to run last season. So if you let them kind of get engaged in the game, slow down the tempo so you're not constantly turning it over and putting yourself under fire, I think that's going to help the cause already. And when you've got players as talented as Tainer and Crognale and Alexis Swahi, who's been eating up some minutes in the preseason, that's going to be a great defensive unit.
Any kind of final thoughts on this team?
Congrats to San Antonio FC on winning the preseason Copa Tejas by defeating Locomotive in a friendly.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but if El Paso doesn't tweet about the friendly, did it really happen?
Exactly. That's yeah.
Just, I mean, if we're talking about like downgrades, and I feel like it does need to be mentioned, going from McIntosh to Sanchez might be one of the biggest positional downgrades we're going to see in any of these teams.
I've historically been way too mean to Richard Sanchez, so I was holding my tongue. But yeah, I'm very concerned about the goalkeeper spot for this team.
Richard Sanchez, the New Mexico manager?
Yeah.
Richard Sanchez, questionable goalkeeper, unquestionable mustache.
There we go. I was hoping you were going there.